Hello and welcome to this video from the EXP group. Now we're on ACCA paper F1 Accountant in Business, and we're carrying on with the previous videos and looking at chapter 1. So these notes can be downloaded from the website, and we are on page 11. What we're going to be looking at today is a bit about what is known as span of control and scalar chain, and then we'll also be looking at centralization, decentralization to discuss these subjects. First of all, what do we mean by span of control and scalar chain? If we look at span of control, the span of control is the number of people that an individual controls, the number of people who he or she is directly responsible for. A scalar chain, which is linked to span of control, represents the number of links in a chain from the top to the bottom of an organization. Now this can be looked at in the diagrams on page 12. First of all, if we look at the term span of control. So if you look at span of control, this individual here, for example, controls those people. This individual here controls those people. That's the span of control. That's the span of control. The scalar chain measures from the top to the bottom. And here is only one level. Now, when you combine the span of control and the scalar chain, you can have what is known as a tall or narrow structure, or a flat or wide structure. So obviously, if you've got a wide span of control, that means you're controlling a relatively large number of people, compared to a narrow span of control, the organization will be flat or will be wide. And vice versa, if you have a narrow span of control, you can end up with a tall or a narrow structure. There are various advantages and disadvantages to both. For example, in a tall or narrow structure, there's more promotion opportunities, because somebody here can get promoted here to here to here. A downside of that is it could be higher costs of middle management, because these people here will have to be paid more than the juniors. An advantage of the wide or flat structure could be more motivating for these individuals, because they have more responsibility on them. So there will be advantages and disadvantages. The next thing to look at is something known as centralization or decentralization. And as the notes say, this whole concept refers to where decisions are made. If it's a centralized organization, it means decisions are made centrally within the head office. If it's decentralized, it means decisions are made at the extremes, further down the hierarchy or away from the head office, away from the center. Which is best, centralized or decentralized? It actually depends. There are advantages of both. So, if we, for example, look at an advantage of centralized, if all the decisions are made centrally, well, it's going to be goal congruence, isn't it? Because the decisions have been made by the same person, are made at the same level. So the goals will be the same. If you're centralized, then you're going to be making more decisions, you'll become more experienced at making decisions. It's good news. And also you could have, as it states here, economies of scale. So that's an advantage of centralized. It's going to be, if I'm looking at decentralized, well, the advantages of decentralized, vice versa, would be disadvantages of decentralized. If it's decentralized, there's maybe no experience of making decisions. You can maybe miss out on economies of scale. You maybe there's no goal congruence. So an advantage of centralized is probably a disadvantage of decentralized. Okay, let's look at the opposite then. A disadvantage of centralized would be lack of local knowledge. Whilst the people at the head office may know what's happening in certain countries, for example, they may not know exactly what is happening in all the countries. Could be slow, could be a level of bureaucracy involved there. And also there could be reduced motivation in the decentralized staff. So in other words, if they're not making any decisions, if all the decisions are made by the head office, that could be demotivating. Reverse, if it's decentralized, then the disadvantages of centralized, the opposite would be the advantages of decentralized. So an advantage of decentralizing could be there is local knowledge. An advantage of decentralized, it could be quick in decision making. An advantage of decentralized could be motivation for these people if they make the decisions. Okay, the final thing we're going to look at in this video, just at the top of page 13, it raises the concept of informal business organizations. So as well as the formal structure issues mentioned above, there will also be informal developed over time. These would include local groups of friends or people that work together that develop informal relationships. So there's formal and informal organizational structures within business. Okay, thank you very much for listening to this video. Please check back again, and we'll be looking at chapter 2 on the next video. Thank you for listening.